Next, let me explain to you array.slice. Okay, array.slice is much simpler than array.splice. So array.splice had lots of options. The basic thing was a start index, delete count, and the elements we need to insert. Okay, here it takes two arguments, and both are optional. One is the start index and another is the end index, and it returns a new array copying it to all items from index start to end. Let me show you what it means. So here, let me clear it and let me rerun the application. So I have the fresh array, and array is an array of 6 items. Okay, now let array2 is equal to array.slice start index. So it can be, for example, from second index to end index. Again, this is a little tricky. So for example, I write 2 to 5. Okay, so what I'm writing here is I need a new array from 0, 1 second index to 5th index, excluding the 5th index. So it will be, let's see what it returns us. Array 2, if we check, it's 2, 3, 4. So it starts from 2, including 2. It gives us back 3. It gives us back 4, but not 5. Okay, so it's excluding the end index. Okay, this is the only thing you need to remember. So basically, array is as it is. It's not changed at all. And we get a brand new array in the range that we provided. Now, if I don't provide any arguments, what will happen? So I'll just clear these things. Okay, it does not work this way. So, so I have array, just to make sure, and let array3 is equal to array.slice. Okay, if I don't provide any arguments, see what happens. Array3 basically is a brand new array. Okay, it's not referring to the same object. They are two different arrays. Okay, so if I do something like array3 and maybe the second item, I will make it 2 to 2. Okay, so if I check array3, it's 0, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, but array1 is going to be the same, right? It's not changed. So both are completely separate arrays. So splice, first syntax that we learned was start and end index. Second was no arguments at all. That copies the entire array. The third thing, let me show you. So we have array, okay, and let array4 is equal to array.slice. We start from second to maybe -1. Let's see what happens. Array4 again works the same way, right? In the array.slice, we learned that -1 means this 5, excluding 5 up to 5. Okay, so -1 means 5, 2 means this second wala index. So excluding 5, we got back 2, 3, 4. Simple. Let me clear it. So again, we have our array. And if I do array.slice and I just pass in 2. So you see what I get? I get 2, 3, 4, 5 till the end. Okay. And if I do something like -3, so it is -1, -2, -3, just one argument, no end argument, then what will I get? 3, 4, 5. So if we give just one argument from that index to the end of the array, we get it. If we don't provide any argument, we get the entire array. Okay, and if we give a range, then we get the range excluding the end number. Very simple, nothing complicated here. Just practice a little bit and things will be very clear to you. So we notice that it's much more simpler than splice. Now let's go to concat. So what concat does is it creates a new array that includes values from another arrays and additional items. Okay, so it accepts any number of arguments. They can be arrays, they can be values, and the result is always a new array containing items from array and then arguments. If an argument is an array, then all of its elements are copied, otherwise the argument itself is copied. Okay, so we'll see a couple of examples here in the very good documentation, and then if required we will practice a little bit of it. So array is 1, 2. We create an array from array and 3, 4. So what we do is we are calling concat on array, array.concat, and we are adding 3, 4 to it. So it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4. Then create an array from array and 3, 4 and 5, 6 to be added. So if it's an array, whatever we are passing in, if they are an array, their values are copied or the value itself is copied. Let me give you an example. Okay, and then we will look at a couple of edge cases. So sorry, I will simply clear it. Okay, and I'll maybe run the application again so that we have a clean slate, and I'll clear the console and let's try it out. So let array2 is equal to array.concat, and let's think of a couple of values that we can try with. Okay, don't worry about making a mistake, let's just try. So I will maybe add the numeric 6. Okay, then maybe some string 7, maybe an array like 8, 9, and maybe another array called with values 10, 11 and 12. Okay, let's see what we get in array 2. So we get a flattened array, right? So basically everything, not flattened is not the very right word for it, but first of all we have whatever we had in array. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's clear? No doubt so far. Then to the concat as an argument we gave 6 and 7. We have that in the new array. Then we gave it a couple of arrays as an argument to concat. Again, the values of the array, the items of the array are copied and not the array itself. So this concat is a very useful function, and you will be using it a lot when you will be doing data structures, algorithms, and all of these stuff. So concat is basically to get a new array from multiple arrays and or values. Okay, so that is the definition. Now let's look at a couple of edge cases. Okay, so normally it only copies elements from arrays. Other objects, even if they look like arrays, are added as a whole. So for example, I give one of the objects as argument. So basically you will see that that object is added as a whole. Let me show you. Let me give you a demo. So I'll just clear everything so that we have a clean slate. And if we look at array, it has 6 values, 0 to 5. Now array.concat So I'll do one, for example, 6, number 6, then maybe from an array 7 and 8. Okay, then if we add an object, okay, and that object can have anything like maybe 1 is equal to 9. Let's see what we get. So basically we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the original array. Then 6, 7, 8 were added to it, inserted to it, to the new one, and then an object was inserted, not the value, right? So the values will be computed only if it's an array. Let's also look one more example, that what happens if I'll just rerun the application. So let array2 is equal to array.concat. Okay, so I'll concat 6 to it. I'll concat or maybe directly I'll do it array.concat. So 6 and then another array. So it contains 7, it contains 8, and maybe another array inside it, 9 and 10. See what happened? 9, 10, 11. Okay. So for the first level of the array, so it does not take care of flattening the internal arrays. Okay, you have to be careful about this. So you can see that the last item that was added was an array with 2 items, 9 and in another array, and this is again in another array. Okay, so arrays were simply copied. So they were not flattened, but if it's just one level deep, then it's copied. Okay, this is something that you should remember. But if an array-like object has a special symbol.isConcat separable property, don't worry about this much. Okay, we looked at these things when we were studying about iterators and generators, right? So it is a bit similar to that. So, but if an array-like object has a special property called symbol.isConcat separable true, then it is treated as an array by concat, and its elements are added instead of referring to that whole object. Got it? So the same array, the same object, if it has this particular object, let me show you immediately. Okay, let me show you immediately. So we have something like, I'll clear this. So we have array, no doubt. Then array.concat. If we do an object, so it's then for this particular item, I'll maybe add an item like 6 and then another item like 7, and so we can see that it is copied as an object so far. Now if I add this particular property to it, okay, and maybe I add another one called length, which is 2, okay, then see what happens. So basically, if any object has symbol.isConcat separable set as true, it has this property and the length property, so that is treated as normal array, and when we use concat, the elements are copied instead of copying the entire object. Okay. So this is a very advanced level concept. So these are usually asked in very, very advanced level JavaScript. But yeah, still it's good to know that there is something like this. We can make separate different array functions, methods, behave different with different objects. And if that object has a particular special property, it is treated differently. Just know that. Like for example, several of them, in which you can call several, iterators. They are actually having an iterable property. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So after concat comes forEach. Okay, and all of these like forEach and a couple of others like map, filter, etc. They use a callback pattern. We will look into it. Okay, it's not that bad. It's used a lot. So forEach. So array.forEach method allows you to run a function for every element of the array. So if you have an array and you run forEach on it, then you pass it a function. This is called a callback function. So forEach is a method. In that you pass in a function. That function will be executed n number of times, and n means the number of items in the array. Okay. So this function will be run n number of times, and every time you will be getting the item, index, and the array itself. Okay. So here are a couple of examples. So here is an array literal, and we are executing forEach on that, and we are alerting each of them. Then here we are iterating through each of them and kind of doing things with that. The result of the function is thrown away and ignored. So here, whatever you return, it really doesn't matter. Okay, it's just ignored. But when you'll be working with map, reduce, and all of these, filter, then what is returned matters a lot. So this is just for forEach. Okay, let me show you an example, then it will be much more better for you. So what I'll do is array.forEach. Okay. So we have this array. We are calling forEach on it. Okay. And then it takes in a callback function. So we pass it a function to it. Okay. To the function, we have a couple of arguments. For example, the first is the item itself. Second is optional, but we can get access to index and the entire array. Okay, so these are the possibilities. Here, let me do something. I'll just console.log. I'll console log item is at index and then I'll pass in the index. Okay, and then let me execute it and see what happened. So we get all of these items, right? So what it did was it went through each item one by one. So this particular function got executed how many number of times? 6 number of times. Okay. In the first iteration, it got the first item. In the second iteration, it got the second item. In the third iteration, it got the third item, then the fourth, then the fifth, and finally the sixth. Okay, makes sense? So that's why For the first time when this function ran, 0 is at index 0. So 0 is at index 0 was printed. I have been repeating this a lot of times, but these things will make sense only if you practice it a little bit. So I'll advise you, before moving ahead, just pause the video and practice for each a couple of times and see what happens. Okay. Now there are a couple of methods to search in an array. Okay. So you have array.indexOf, array.lastIndexOf, and array.includes. So these are three primary methods which can be used to search items of an array. Okay. So have a similar syntax and do essentially the same as their string counterparts, but operate on items instead of characters. All right. So three things. One is to find items. One is array.indexOf, array.lastIndexOf, array.includes, and one more array.find. Let's look at it. Then things will be automatically very clear to us. Let me make a very minor change here. Let me first of all clear this console, and I'll repeat, for example, 2. Okay. I'll repeat 2 here. I will maybe repeat one more item, for example 5 here. Okay. So 2 and 5, there are duplicate values, just for example. Okay, don't worry about them as of now. I'll execute it, and I'll execute it again. And if I run array, I see my nice array. Now if I do something like array.includes and give it, for example, 3, it gives me true. You can see down, true, because this array includes 3. If I type something that it does not include, then it gives us false. As simple as that. Okay. So if an array includes the item, strict equality, okay, then it gives us back true, else it gives us back false. Now this array includes 0. And if you try to search for false, it will give you false. Why? Because it does strict equality, the triple equals. So you have to do array.equals include 0. Then it will give you true. 1, it will give you true. 5, it will give you true. Anything else, it will give you false. Okay. As simple as that. So array.includes, if it's found, it's there, it's present in the items, then it returns true, else false. And whenever you are not concerned with the index, that where this item exists, it is preferred to use includes instead of index of. Why? Because I'll show you. So there is just one edge case. Suppose I put a nan here. Okay, not a number. Okay. Now if I run it and if I check the array, we see we have this. So if I do array.includes nan, then it works with nan, right? But it does not work like this with index of. So that's why if you don't need index at all, it is always preferred to use the includes and not the index of. And next is index of. So again, I'll get rid of nan here. And now array dot index of 3. So what's the index of 3? It's 3. What's the index of 1? The index of 1 is 1. What's the index of 0? It's 0. What's the index of 100? Since 100 is not present, it gives us -1. So whenever the array.indexOf gives you back -1, that means that particular item is not present. Okay. If I do false, then again it's not present. If I do 0, then the index is 0. So if the returned value of array.indexOf is -1, this means that the number or the item does not exist in the array. If it is anything more than -1, 0, 1, 2, anything, that means that's the index where that item is present. Okay? Now, indexOf starts searching from the left. So for example, if I search the index of 2, array.indexOf 2, what does it give me? It gives me 2, right? Because it's by default searches from left, and as soon as it finds the first item, it returns you the index. What if you want to check the last index? So this is the first index. Okay, indexOf can be called as first index. What if you also want last index? And I'll show you a use case of it. Then we use last indexOf. So array.lastIndexOf2, if you search, then see what you get. The sixth item, which is here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. When can these be useful? Suppose you want to find out if 2 exists somewhere else. So 2 is not unique. Okay. Suppose if you want to check that 2 is unique or not. So what you can do is array.index array dot index of 2 equivalent to array dot last index of 2. So in case of 2, what happened? That the first index and the last index were different. That means they are not unique. So whenever you get false, it means that it's not unique. Same thing, let's try for 5. Array.index of 5, is it equal to array.index of 5? Again, last index, it's not. So that's why there are duplicates. It's not unique. But if you think of a number that is unique, for example 1, okay, then it will give you true because if it searches 1 from left side or the right side, both are going to be the same, right? So this is a very nice trick to check if there are duplicates of something specific in an array. Okay, so suppose we are checking for 1. I'm just repeating it out. Suppose we are checking for 1. So array.indexOf checks it from left and finds 1. Index is 1. Then it checks from right and it reaches the same number and returns that the index is 1. So if they are equal, the indexOf and the last indexOf, we can be sure that there is just unique. There is just 1 1 in the whole array. But in case of 2, the indexOf will return 2. The last indexOf will return 6. And hence they both numbers are not equal. Therefore, it will return false. So this is a nice trick. You may be asked, indirect or indirect way of checking whether a number is unique or is duplicated in the array. Okay. And this is one of the ways in which you can figure it out. So we have looked at indexOf, last indexOf, and includes. Index and last indexOf returns you the index. Includes returns true or false, and whenever you don't need index, it is recommended to use includes. Okay, you may go through these examples. Yeah, about nan it's written here as well. That's why I tell that this is a really nice documentation. Find is again a callback pattern, and we will explore it in the next lesson. Okay, I want you to practice all of these before moving to the next lesson.